as we're kind of fully into the Lenten season, Dan, what have you been thinking about as of late? Maybe something that you've been reflecting on as it relates to our relationship to creation and our place in this world.
Yeah, this may be a little bit of a kind of an odd transition, but 8 years ago, my wife passed away on Good Friday. She had had a over 13-year struggle with brain cancer. And during that Lent of 2009, we just had this long journey of the community coming together. We would have every Wednesday, we would have prayer and worship and Eucharist. And then on Good Friday, she passed away. And so every Lent becomes kind of this darkness and deepening of my journey. The way it relates to creation care even kind of links in with N.T. Wright's book, Surprised by Hope, has to do with my growing theology, if you will, of death. And so I, this is just kind of this little tiny vignette. We had talked quite a bit about my wife. I knew what my wife wanted in death. I knew we had talked very specifically, very painfully about it. But there was no doubt, no lack of clarity as to what she wanted. And so she died at home. She died in hospice. It was a gift, if you will, to know that I was with her doing what she wanted, even in her death. And she wanted to be cremated. And so we had talked quite a bit about that. And so she was cremated, but I wanted her remains, her ashes, to go directly into the ground. And so we went to the memorial gardens where she was going to be buried. And I said to them, I have a biodegradable box that her remains are in. And I'd like it to go directly into the earth where we bury her. And the memorial garden said, the cemetery said, well, we can't do that. I said, what do you mean you can't do that? Don't you bury people? And they said, well, we have to put a vault, which means there has to be even for cremated remains, there has to be this plastic vault that the remains are in, so the ground doesn't sink. And I actually, for whatever reason, I wanted her ashes, her remains, to go right into the earth. I wanted dust to dust, ashes to ashes. It was important to me. The Jewish people have a practice of the bodies are frozen until the burial, and then they're wrapped and put in pine boxes and holes drilled into the bottom of the boxes in some cases, and they're put directly into the earth. So it's ashes to ashes, dust to dust, and that's what I wanted. My friend who was with me at the memorial garden said, you have to have a vault to protect it from sinking. Do you have to have a plastic bottom to that vault? And the funeral directors, or the cemetery director said, no one has ever asked us that before. And so when it came time for the graveside for her burial, they had dug a hole 4 feet deep. I lowered her remains into the hole. And my children and I threw dirt onto the remains. They put the little vault thing over the top. And then the workmen came by and began to put in dirt and tamp it down, and throw in dirt and tamp it down, and throw in dirt and tamp it down, and then put the grass on the top and tamp it down. And it was almost this incredible liturgy, this incredible ritual of dust to dust and ashes to ashes. And then there were about 30 or 40 of us there. We sang hymns. We had Eucharist. And almost that graveside, that burial, that dust to dust, that ashes to ashes, is the thing actually about that whole journey of my wife's death that I have is most vivid to me of almost anything else. So even more so than the memorial service itself. So anyway, that's that memory also always comes flashing back to me at Lent, and we're right in the middle of it right now, and the darkness has descended in some ways, and I'm remembering, and it's a gift from God.
Thanks for sharing your story.